everyone, it's Kris from my girlfriend's quilt shop, and today we're going to be talking a little bit more about that beautiful autumn quilt from Kimberbell. It's brand new and it's called Falling for Autumn. This quilt is filled with so many fun embellishments and techniques for being able to have a lot of fun with the embroidery machine. In today's video, we're going to go more into the pieced blocks on this quilt. In fact, you're going to see here on the quilt that we are doing a pumpkin block that has been pieced, and you're going to do 2 of those, as well as a sawtooth star done in the hoop, entirely in the hoop. It's pretty amazing. And so I'm going to take you step by step on how to do the piece pumpkin. And by just knowing those simple techniques, you'll be able to do any other piece block in the hoop as well. First off, you'll need to have the Falling for Autumn machine embroidery book from Kimberbell. So when you open the cover, you'll also notice that the CD is included. In here, you're going to find step-by-step directions that are absolutely amazing. So I promise you, if you just take it step by step, let this guide help you. And with me as your teacher today and being able to do the piece block, we're going to be able to get through this together. You'll also want your stabilizers. And so the ones that I've set aside for doing this entire quilt would be the Kimberbell wash-away topping, the Kimberbell fusible backing, light mesh cutaway stabilizer, and project batting. Wonderful, wonderful stabilizers to have. We'll talk about the purpose of each one as we go along. If you'd like, my girlfriend's quilt shop also offers thread kits for Falling for Autumn. This is the one from Glide, and we also offer it in Hemingway threads. You can see that there are 12 different thread spools in there. And before we get started on this block today, I want to point out to you that it's highly recommended that you go to page 4 in your book. You're going to see pages 4, 5, 6, and 7 that have all the cutting diagrams, the cut list, everything that you need in order to complete this quilt. I highly recommend that you actually take the time beforehand to do all the cutting, and recommend that you put it in like little plastic bags such as this. That way, when it's time to come to the block, you have everything ready and prepared to go, and you can just enjoy the process and have a great time embroidering. All right, so with that all being said, are you ready to get started? Let's go ahead and begin. So for today's lesson, I am referring to the directions found on page 32 in the book, and we are going to be doing the pieced pumpkin. Now note that it says we're making 2 blocks. For today's video, I'm only going to be doing 1 in the hoop, but you certainly could do both of them at the same time if you have a larger hoop, and just bring those 2 together. And you'll notice here that it says materials are listed below for 2 pieced pumpkin blocks. So I'm just going to do half of this in today's video. So I have all of my different pieces all pre-cut, and you're going to notice how cute is this. This is a pre-printed piece of felt that is already shown as gingham. So I love this because it's a lot less piecing without having to do all the piecing, right? We're going to be using our light mesh cutaway stabilizer in a 5x7 hoop. Now, the design itself is much smaller than the 5x7. However, because we are doing background quilting here, I'm going to have this in my 5x7 hoop. You're going to notice here at the machine that I'm going to bring in the background quilting files first. Yep, that's right, even though I don't do the quilting till later. And you'll see why here in just a sec. But again, we're going to bring in the background quilting files first. Then we're going to be bringing in the pieced block. Now, the reason for this is because I want to make sure that my batting is in place before I do my piecing. If I were to do it the other way around, I wouldn't have the batting in the proper place. So I'm going to go to the machine, and I'm going to do all the placement outlines and everything to have my batting and my background in place. However, when it comes time to do the quilting, I'm going to skip ahead. I want to skip ahead of that step in order to do my piece block. And then from there, I'll go back and finish off with the quilting. All right, if that was a little much all at once, don't worry. I'm going to take you step by step on how it's done at the machine. All right, so I'll first go ahead and put in my 5x7 hoop. And again, it is lined with the light mesh cutaway stabilizer. I'm going to come over here to the Baby Lock Altair and select embroidery. And then my designs are found on a USB stick. All right, I'll scroll through to find my background quilting design file first. And the one that it recommends in the book is KDQ 214 Autumn 3. It's the 4x4 design that you see right here, those cute little pumpkins. So I select that and hit set. At this point, I want to add my pieced pumpkin. So I'm going to go here to add, and again to my USB stick to find it. And again, scroll through. My pieced pumpkin is found right here. And I will set it. Now that those two designs have been brought together, I'll hit embroidery. So you can see here that the first step is going to be the placement outline for where my batting goes. All right, perfect. So I'll go ahead and put my foot down and stitch that out. And now with my batting cut larger than the square, I'll go ahead and place that down, making sure all of the outlines are covered. And now it's going to do the tack down stitch to hold the batting down. Perfect. I'm going to carefully remove the hoop from my machine and bring it over to the cutting table. And then I'm going to use my Kimberbell scissors to trim the excess batting away. Okay. Now that my batting's in place, I'll bring it back to the machine. And the next stitch would normally be doing the placement outline for where to put my backing fabric. However, because we're not putting the backing fabric on quite yet, I'm actually going to go ahead and skip a few steps on my machine and in my design so that I can now go straight to the piecing of the quilt block. All right, so how do I do that? Well, let's take a look at the machine right here. And whichever machine you have, all of them may be a little different, but you are looking for the feature of being able to move ahead or go back in a design. And on this one, it's got a needle and a plus minus picture. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now I can skip ahead by stitches or go backwards in stitches if I wanted to, or I could actually move ahead a step or backwards a step if I want to. So on this one, I'm going to go ahead and go forward because I don't need that stitch. And I'm going to go forward again because I don't need that stitch. That was the tack down stitch again for the background quilting. Now, I'm ready to do background quilting, but not quite, right? Because I have these darling pumpkins, but I don't want them to be stitched behind the design. I want them to be stitched in front of the design. So I will go ahead and skip that one as well. We now find ourselves on step number 6, as you can see here. So what is this? This is going to be a template of where the pumpkin pieces are going to go. I like to refer to it as a roadmap, if you will, or even a puzzle that tells us exactly where the pieces will go. So now that I'm to this point, again, it's step number 6 for those of you who are doing background quilting, go ahead and hit OK. Now let's watch the machine stitch out our template. I'm going to go ahead and remove my hoop from the machine just so you can see it just a little better as to what's happening here. I've got my book open up to page 32. So you can see the template of my pumpkin. And this is going to be section 1, which is the first section, which happens to be the stem. Now, just like we normally would do with paper piecing, we would always put the right side facing up for just the first piece. And then every piece afterwards is always the right side down. Now, because I'm using a solid fabric, there really is no right or wrong side, so don't worry about that too much. But I'm going to go ahead and place it over the stem right there. Just make sure that it's completely covered, and I'll use a small piece of paper tape just to kind of hold it steady while the next stitch stitches out. All right, when I take it back to the machine, it's going to stitch a line right here. And I look at this line as threefold. I look at it as a tack down stitch to hold this in place. I look at it as a trim line to know where to cut. And I look to it as a placement line so I know what fabric and where to put it next. All right, so let's go ahead to the machine and put that in. As you can see pictured on page 32, it's telling us that we are going to trim the fabric close to the stitch line right here. So I've got my little handy dandy scissors here, lift the excess part off on the left and just trim right along that line. Perfect. Now I am good to go. And it says to place the piece 2 fabric right side down with one edge centered on the placement line. Well, if you're wondering which one is piece 2, just go ahead and refer back to your instructions right up here. It says piece 2 and 3 are the 1.5 by 1.5 inch squares. All right, so I'm going to grab that. And again, I would put it right side facing down, but again, with this fabric, there's no right or wrong side. So I'm going to use that line. Remember, it was a tack down line. It served as a trim line, and now it's going to serve as my placement line. So I put my fabric right there and go ahead and take it to the machine, and it's going to stitch down here, and then I have a place to flip it. All right, so now that that's been stitched out, I can flip it back and just give it a little finger press. In fact, even if you have like a little um, wooden finger press, that helps tremendously. If you used like a fabric folding pin, that works out really well as well. All right, so now that that is now in place, I'm going to go ahead, take it back to the machine, and I'm going to stitch the trimming placement line on this other side. With that stitched, I'm ready to trim along that line. So go ahead and do that. There we go. And I can put my second piece on. So again, right side down, centering it along that line, take it back to the machine, and it will stitch it down. And I'll flip that one out and give it another little press right here. Okay, now it's going to go back into the machine and do a new stitch right here. It's going to show my tack down, my placement, my trim, all the things right there. All right, so we're getting ready to add on the pumpkin felt. All right, here's that cute felt. Remember, we need to put right side down, so I'm going to flip it over, and it's going to go over top of here so that when it does the tack down stitch, I can flip it over. Now, Kimberbell does specify in the instructions that they do not recommend you using an iron with this particular felt. So good to remember. And again, just do a nice little finger press and you'll be good to go. And it also recommends that we put a little bit of tape on here. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my little dispenser and just put a little piece of tape. Okay, time to go back to the machine, and this time it's going to do a placement line right here so that I can continue adding my background pieces. Place my next background piece right side down along that line. Now, if you're at home stitching this out, oftentimes I will just go ahead and just keep my hoop in the machine the whole time. It eliminates the timely process of bringing it in and out and in and out. But because I'm trying to show you vividly on the video, that's why I'm bringing it back and forth so often. But if you feel comfortable doing it all at the machine, you could certainly do that. Okay, now it's time to do the next stitch. All right, you know the drill. We'll go ahead and continue this process step by step. It's going to do again the tack down stitch, the placement line, the trim line, and we'll just continue to repeat this over and over again until the entire pumpkin block has been stitched out. Once it's been stitched out, we'll go ahead and do the quilting. Okay, so we have our pumpkin all pieced. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to stitch that outer tack down line first, and then which is the last step in our design. And then I'm going to go backwards to go find the pumpkin quilting to be able to finish over the top. All right, so you can see on my screen that it says I'm finished embroidering, but not quite. I'll go ahead and hit OK, but I'm going to go ahead and use my plus minus button one more time and be able to scroll through until I see the pumpkin background quilting. And there we go. It's found on step number 5 in this design. So with that showing up on my screen, now I'm going to go ahead and change my thread colors out because I really don't want it to be this dark brown any longer. Instead, I'm going to do it as a light pewter gray. In fact, if you're following along with Glide, I'm using the warm gray 4 for mine. But you can use whichever thread color you'd like. And I'm ready to let the background quilting take place. It's going to be so cute. Okay, and there you have it. Your little pumpkin block is as cute as can be. Do I dare say it's as cute as a pumpkin? It's adorable. And you're going to actually make 2 of these as seen in the quilt, plus use these same techniques and steps when it comes time to doing the other piece blocks in your autumn quilt. Have fun. And if there's anything you need, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at mygirlfriendsquiltshop.com. Including, you can find all of your Kimberbell stabilizers and kits and notions and all things Kimberbell at mygirlfriendsquiltshop.com. Enjoy! I can't wait to see your photos.